What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston podcast network. And yes, everything is sunshine and puppy dogs in Celtics Nation, not only because it's kind of 60 degrees outside, and which feels great for a rare change, but your Boston Celtics have won 10. I think it's up to 11 straight games over playoff picture teams, culminating with yesterday's triumph over the Brooklyn Nets, in which Jayson Tatum may have cemented himself as a MVP candidate. And so I'm going to start there because John Tomase, Tomastradamus, I don't know how I'm going to phrase this, but you wrote in advance of this matchup with the Celtics and Nets that Jayson Tatum was about to establish himself as a not only just like a really great Celtic, but a sort of on the all-time list. One, do you feel good about having wrote that before he goes off for 54 points against the Nets? And you know, how do you feel about Jayson Tatum in the aftermath of that game?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it now. I mean, the idea of it is that he is making that leap. You know, I think coming into this year, obviously already an all-star, already a very good player, you'd kind of look and say, all right, at this point, he has like his floor is Antoine Walker, right? So that's a very good player, multiple-time all-star, not necessarily a franchise great, probably that next tier down, probably kind of where Jaylen Brown is at. Tatum, however, has now so clearly made that leap, and I'm glad you brought up the MVP stuff to begin with, because in his last 10 games, he's beaten Jokic, he's beaten Embiid, he's beaten Ja Morant, he's beaten Kevin Durant, you can throw in Trae Young. So it's like he is winning, and I know all those teams weren't at full strength, but he is winning head-to-head matchups with the best players in the NBA. And the last two games, between what he did against Ja with 21 in the fourth quarter and yesterday, what he did against Durant, where Durant was as on as he can be. And ultimately it didn't matter because you know what? Tatum had more. We always talk about the bag. Tatum had more in his bag. You know, Durant was mid-range. I know he had one or two drives maybe. Mm-hmm. Obviously hit some ridiculous threes with people in his face. Tatum scored at every level, and he dominated whoever was guarding him at every level. And at some point, not this year, although I guess if he keeps going off, maybe this year, but at some point you are going to legitimately talk about him as an MVP candidate. And once you get to that point, you are in the conversation of the handful of greatest Celtics players ever. And I think that's where he's headed.
Yeah, it is kind of wild. I'll admit, I've just conditioned myself to know that Jayson Tatum is going to have a second half surge for whatever reason, whether, you know, and some of it last year was COVID, but it gets to like game 48 and he's just like, all right, it's Tatum time. And it cost him last year, obviously, partly because of COVID, because he didn't get all NBA, he lost out on $32.6 million. I don't think there's any motivation there, though certainly we've heard him come out and talk about it, and he's frustrated that he lost that money. But I look up now and he's steamrolling towards first team all NBA. You know, there are forward slots available. You'll see Giannis and Luka, and you know, you can run down the list of guys that will land on all NBA first team. I think Tatum's in the conversation now based on the way that he's playing. Now he has to finish the year super strong, but you know, from going from missing the team to potentially being a first team guy this year is incredible. And the last 2 weeks, the eye test for me is just like, the way he's reading the game has gone to a whole new level. Just the ability to make the right pass, the ability to make the simple pass. I pointed out, like I wrote today, that my favorite play of the whole game was under a minute to go. Kyrie hits that crazy three. They get back within three, I think. And the Celtics possession kind of falls apart. Tatum gets the ball back at the top of the key with like 6 on the shot clock. He drives. Kyrie comes over with help. 2 guys in front of him. In that situation, it feels like he would have kicked the ball away, would have made a bad pass, a turnover. No, he just elevated, threw it over the top to Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart, who probably would have in the past rushed that shot and tried to hit the hero shot. 1 touch to Jaylen Brown, and then Jaylen Brown makes the 3 after letting Goran Dragic fly by. It was just like everything we've been so frustrated with this, everybody on the Celtics about. They all made the right play, but especially Tatum in that situation, not feeling like he had to be the hero in a game that he had 54 points. And so the maturity, the way he's reading the game, he's in the conversation now. I'm not ready to go full MVP, although as you said, like, how do you argue when he's beating all these guys that are going to be at the top of that list? I do love the last 2 games that he has gone. Not only has he beaten those players in those matchups, but he's forcefully gone at Ja Morant and now Kevin Durant and been like, I'm just going to be the best player in the fourth quarter. I mean, should we have seen this coming? Like I said, I expect this in the second half, but do you think there was just something that clicked for Tatum?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. It's the idea that he's seeing the game now and he's willing to move the ball. And, those of us who grew up watching Bird, not to sound like old bastards, but like part of what made Bird so great is not just that he involved his teammates, but that sort of confidence he instilled in his teammates, where it's like, if Larry's giving me the ball, that means he's confident that I can score to here, or, that he wants the ball in my hands. So that should give me more confidence. And you're seeing that now when Tatum swings to Grant Williams, it's with the intention of shoot it in the corner. When he passes it to Smart, it's make something happen. And so that, I think teammates are feeding off of that. There's another play that jumped out at me along the lines of what you were describing with the Brown three. It was a different three. It was one where Tatum had the ball sort of on the right wing. He started to shoot. He went inside to Rob Williams, who touched it back to Tatum, who was wide open in the corner and set his feet and stood there for like a minute before nobody ever challenged him. He swished it, but that to me was like, give it up and get it back. Yeah. That's unselfish basketball right there. And that whole play was made by him. He doesn't get an assist on that play, but he should, because that wide open three was him passing up a shot to get it to a teammate who got it back to him for a better shot. So there's just been a lot of that. That is the most entertaining brand of basketball to watch. And that's what the Celtics are playing right now. And when you think of my poor, angel of death appearances on your podcast early in the season, where it's just like, how do we watch this team? And not so many words, it's just a complete 180. I've been racking my brain trying to think of another Boston team that has made a mid-season turnaround like this with basically the same personnel. Like the 2004 Red Sox went from okay to unstoppable, but they made a bunch of trades. Like Derek White is the only trade they made. They more subtracted, it seems like, with Schroeder. And so it's basically the same group is now steamrolling people. But not only that, they're doing it in a way that we all want to watch. I don't know how it happened. You have better insight into that than I
don't.
Do, it feels unprecedented.
People keep asking me, and I wish I could tell you. I wish there was like even a demarcation point. Now, certainly when we sort of parse the numbers, I always default to January 23rd, which was the day Smart came back from COVID, and they had their full starting five healthy. And that was the first day Tatum went for 50. And it felt like everything sort of really launched from there. But certainly it started earlier in 2022 when they just started to play a little bit better brand of basketball. Some of it can be traced to Ime making the switch to Rob in the roamer role and kind of like leaning in heavy with that as Al is the back line. Like there was some clunkiness at the start there where they were trying to figure out where they were both supposed to be, who's guarding bigs. Is Rob always going to be on the perimeter? And like everything with Ime switch happy defense took a little bit of time to settle in. And, certainly you take away the first 3 games or 4 games of the year, and all of a sudden they've been great ever since, and now elevating to the top defense in the NBA. But yeah, I can't recall a team where any situation where a team went from completely miserable to watch to like on a night to night basis, you said, how are they going to inflict pain on me on this evening, to, oh my God, this is some combination of the 1986 Celtics and the 96 Bulls. And like, like what is going on here? And I don't know. It's I credit. I keep going back to it. People say it's crazy that I say that Ime Udoka deserves apologies. Well, we were pretty hard on him. And like, look, he did have missteps, but he managed to see this thing through and get the results that we've been begging Brad Stevens to get for multiple seasons. So, I mean, one of the things we love around NBC Sports Boston is like blame pie. But if we're giving the credit pie, which is a segment we would never do on any program. But like, if you had to give credit pie to the Celtics, like how are you slicing that up?
Yeah, Tatum, number one, for all the reasons we talked about. He's involving teammates. He has taken his game to another level. He's not just simply a scorer. And even in the way he's scoring now, you think of the way as a rookie, we're granted 19 years old, he would get to the hoop, but he would get kind of swallowed up. And then a year later, he was getting to the hoop and he was finishing more. I mean, as a rookie, he was throwing the ball off his leg half the time he went to the hoop. True. Then he finishes more. Then even last year, a lot of those drives that he is finishing strong now were he'd get to the hoop and then it'd sort of be like a lefty flip high off the glass. Like he is now recognized, or he has matured and grown into the point where he is one of the strongest players in the NBA, especially at his position. When he drives, you just don't knock him off the ball. That crazy drive he made at the end of the game,
Yeah, Nick
where he sort
Claxton
of
going
lost it and
flying.
then he regained it and he went through the entire team, and then he had to finish strong at the hoop, and he did. So Tatum is number one. Two, I would say it's either Udoka or Smart, but I would say Udoka kind of with Smart as a 2B. And what I would love to know, what were the conversations like between Udoka and Smart as the year went along? Because obviously a lot of us, including me, I said it on this podcast, I think it's time for a change of scenery for Smart. I think we've seen all we can see out of him. Wrong. Happy to be wrong. But how did Udoka convince Smart that I am putting the ball in your hands? You are the point guard. You make the decisions. He empowered him, but he empowered him in a way that dialed back his worst tendencies and brought his best tendencies, the unselfishness, the willingness to sell out his body, you know, for charges or whatever, loose balls. All of that stuff is still there. But now the shot selection is much better. He's pass first. He's not trying to play the hero. I would love to know what Udoka said to get through to Smart and turn him into the player that he is now.
And I think it started early. I think it started way earlier than what we imagined, because we remember right before the big ballyhooed team meeting in Orlando, like 4 games into the season, we heard Smart come out and be like, well, look, you know, I can't facilitate in the fourth quarter if I never have the ball in my hand, if I'm just standing in the corner. And I don't think that was like, Smart isn't the type of guy to necessarily, and he certainly speaks his mind, but I think he had some backing behind that where, you know, Ime might have been in his ear saying, hey, look, you got to get those guys to give the ball up and play the right way. And I think he felt empowered to say that. And then certainly they sort of started to change their ways there. But something definitely happened on that sort of when Smart was out. I don't know if he was just watching the games differently, if there was I don't know if there was this like come to Jesus moment, but yeah, like ever since he's been back, it's just been completely different in terms of he is bought in more so than ever to, I'm going to crank the pace on this team. I'm going to just make the right plays. I'm going to throw ridiculous behind the back passes to Grant Williams in the corner. I'm going to throw these like, you know, darts to Robert Williams around the basket, and it's all going to kind of take off. And I think that the biggest number you can point to is I think they're got like 120.5 offensive rating with Smart on the court since he came back from COVID. And like, look, all the numbers are pretty good because they had so many lopsided wins, but it's been super juiced. And so it's funny. When I was doing my credit pile, it's certainly one goes to Tatum because of the leap. I think I give Ime the second most credit because I think just putting the pieces in the right spot and getting guys to go to a next level. But yeah, you know, originally I didn't think Smart didn't jump to mind. I was going to, you know, me being me, I was going to default to Robert Williams and how much of an impact he's been defensively. But just everybody buying into just doing what they do has been enough to make this thing take off. And I'd throw Brad Stevens on the list because, I mean, he could have wrote it out with Schroeder. And I think we all know by now was addition by subtraction. You know, Derek White has rode the roller coaster a little bit. And I think that's just going to happen. But if Brad doesn't thin this thing out a little bit and give Ime the 7 guys to lean on, then I think I'm not sure it ever launches quite the way it has. And now it's just defined. Like everybody knows what they're supposed to do here moving forward. Give credit to Al for finding the little bit of the fountain of youth. I'd still like to see that shot stay consistent for 20 more games to feel really good going into the playoffs. But yeah, at every level, they've gotten a little bit more from everybody. And, you know, maybe with the exception of maybe the bench just needs to go up a little bit and maintain the level of the starters. But it truly is remarkable. I would love to know. There's going to be an example outside of Boston sports of a team that just caught it, the fire, and whether there was something there. I guess that leads me to my next kind of topic is what are our expectations now? Have they changed because of how good they've been and how good Tatum is playing? You know, before it was like, you know, so much is going to be matchup based. Do they have expectations now going into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they've earned them, you know, and as recently as, you know, a week ago, I was still looking at it like, well, clearly they're not at the level of a fully healthy Brooklyn because of their struggles with Embiid, and you've added Harden. I think Philly's a tough matchup for them. The Bucks are still out there, but I put them a solid 4. And now you watch what they're doing, and I'm certainly not ready to declare them the Eastern Conference favorites or anything, but suddenly you look at them and you say, these guys could give anybody a series right now. And, I think our expectations of, well, maybe get out of the first round, it's a good year. I think we've moved beyond that now, which is great. Like they're going to be one of the top 4 seeds. So they should beat whoever they get. Cleveland has fallen back. I know Jared Allen just got hurt. So it's like, if that ends up being a 3-6 matchup or something, they should handle Cleveland, and then you take your chances with, I don't know who's going to, who they would get after that. It depends how the seeding shake out. I worry about Brooklyn when they have a full complement, because Ben Simmons is such a difference maker defensively. I mean, you don't have to guard him, so that part is good. But you think about what the Celtics were able to do yesterday with Tatum. If Ben Simmons is manning up Tatum, does he score 54? And do they win that game? So, that's the thing. But the guy hasn't played in a year, and we don't know where his head is at. So God knows, we may be estimating Brooklyn. They're basically a 500 team at this point anyway. You can go at Kyrie. That was one of the enjoyable things to watch yesterday, was whoever Kyrie was on was taking it to him, which is nice to see, because we got to see up close and personal, as great as he is offensively and he is otherworldly, he is a liability on the other end, outside of the occasional little poke check like the lazy man's defense. So anyway, I think they should be right there in the conversation for Eastern Conference Finals, and then see what happens.
Yeah, so many things. I want to get to Kyrie in a little bit, in his little post game cheat shot. But it's funny you said that we're not in position yet maybe to call the Celtics the top the favorite out of the Eastern Conference. Well, 538, which hey, Nate Silver's numbers, you can trust them based on the history, whether you want to or not. But they do have the Celtics, and one of their metrics that they use is what they call full strength rating, and it just sort of drills down everything to how does the team perform when its most important players are together. And well, clearly, because the Celtics have absolutely throttled teams when they've had their starting 5, they actually have the best rating in the NBA with that. And because of that, they now have a 31% chance, a league high 31% chance at making the finals based on 538's numbers, and a 19% chance to win it, which again, even the most ardent of Celtics fans would sit here and say, probably a little bit too optimistic. But it is crazy that we've gone from, I said it yesterday, 538's numbers had them at a 43 win projection on January 9th. That was right after they had that crumble in New York. It's when I wrote a story about, hey, they might have to start thinking about, is it better to be in the lottery than to just kind of sit there middling? And look, I'll take that L. I never thought they would definitely lean into that route. It's not in Brad Stevens' DNA, or even Ime Udoka to like embrace losing. But the problem was that if you're just going to be the 9th or 10th best team in the Eastern Conference, it does you no good. Like, you just get stuck on this treadmill of mediocrity. And the point was that you're better off just finding ways to like play the young guys and develop them and go there. And now fast forward literally 8 weeks, and here we are, and we're like, the Celtics are the 538 favorite to win the NBA championship. And I like, it's hard to quite wrap your head around. I'm curious. It all, again, for me, it comes down to where they match up, right? Like, so if they get the 4th or the 5th seed, probably the Bulls probably should win that. You'd play the number 1 seed probably in round 2, depending on like who comes out of the play-in, and the Heat should beat that team, although Toronto is giving them fits, and who knows with Brooklyn here. But so let's say it's Celtics Heat in round 2, probably should win that, like based on like how I feel. Like the Heat are very good. I think it would be a defensive rock fight, but like I feel like they win that one. So now you're in the Eastern Conference Finals. So yeah, like my expectations have jumped up, and fair or not, it's wild that we're even at that point. All right, let's go back to Kyrie, because like that's, people are more interested in that. Kyrie called the Celtics a scorned girlfriend who waiting for a call. Let's take a listen to that clip real quick.
No, I think it's gonna be like that. Well, I know it's gonna be like that for the rest of my career coming in here. So, it's like the scorned girlfriend. Just wants an explanation on why I left, but still hoping for, a text back. And I'm just like, yeah, it's fun while it lasted.
The floor is yours, John Tomase. What did you feel when Kyrie threw out the scorned girlfriend line?
So we've all had exes, girlfriend or boyfriend, who, when you're out of it, you're just like, oh my God, I do not miss you. I do not miss anything about you. I am so grateful that you are out of my life. You probably feel the same way about me. That's fine. If we never see each other again, that's fine. I don't even want to think about you. all of that. That's what Kyrie Irving is to Celtics fans. We have gotten over him, especially now that the team is good again and Anthony Davis is kind of a disaster in LA. It's like we dodged a bullet. We are happy you are gone. We are very happy to have Rob Williams, Chris Forsberg's favorite, and Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Ime Udoka and a fun team to watch. And we don't have your drama and we don't have to worry about vaccination status and all this garbage. You are out of our lives. Our lives are better for it. Good riddance.
All right. Well, I'm glad you got that off your chest. But and I feel the same way. I actually, going into this matchup, I really hope that Kyrie wasn't a focal point. Like, why do you worry about a part-time player when we had Jayson Tatum and Kevin Durant about to go at each other? Like, it's just time to move on. And I honestly don't feel like Celtics fans have lingered on this. I do think my curiosity has always been is, why is Kyrie so mad? Like, this part I don't get. Like, why is he stomping on the logo? Like, he comes out and he says all the time.
He's a jerk. He's a jerk. Like, it's that simple. And I hated it when he was here in Boston, and I loved watching him in a Celtics uniform. I was in Cleveland covering the Red Sox the day they acquired him, and it was like, this is what it felt like when, the Red Sox got Manny Ramirez. Like, holy crap, like, this guy, Kyrie Irving, is coming to the Celtics. I was thrilled to watch him. I loved watching him. As the Kyrie experience evolved in Boston, however, listening to him, I was like, this guy's kind of an idiot. Like, and at what point does this hurt your team? And so I don't even remember what you asked me, but like that was sort of.
I just don't. My general point is always.
Oh yeah, why is he so angry?
Why is he
it's
so
just
unhappy?
How he's wired. It's just how he's a conspiracy theorist. Like,
we're not gonna hijack the pod, but I agree. I have even before this season, I have said over and over again, and people like laugh at me because this is just my default line at this point. But I really hope Kyrie finds happiness. I don't know why it's so hard for him and why it always reverts to drama, but he is mesmerizing to watch. I enjoyed the hell out of what his wizardry on the court. He does stuff with a basketball that no one else does, and I just really thought maybe going to Brooklyn and being with his buddy and no, I don't know. So the other thing I was going to do was going to put on Stevie Wonder's Part-Time Lover. And because like, I just can't get all worked up about a guy who's worried about scoring girlfriend who plays 40 games a season and hinders his team's ability to be great. So
I would call him Sir Duke. We go with Sir Duke.
There we go. That is the most appropriate, right?
Call me sir.
It fits on so many levels. And I think ultimately that's the good thing for the Celtics fans is that like there's so much more to be excited about with this team. It's funny because now this was like as high intensity of a week as the Celtics have had, and it'll get a little bit of a boost next Sunday. Kevin Garnett and the jersey retirement, Luka coming to town, all that stuff, but it's going to downshift a little bit here, and which is weird because like Hornet games used to be like super fun, and Terry Rozier, and now IT's out there. How do the Celtics avoid sort of after this sort of week downshifting in intensity? Can they keep their foot on the gas? Should we be confident that based on what we've seen the last couple weeks that they can do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Detroit would be the one counterexample where you say, all right, maybe, but that Detroit is a uniquely bad matchup for them, and I don't really understand why. They're very physical, so I don't know if that has been part of it. But, the Memphis game was as physical as it gets, and the Celtics responded every step of the way. Yesterday's game, even though the Nets are not a particularly good defensive team, Tatum was scoring in traffic a lot. So there were bodies everywhere, and he had to be very physical in that game. So I do like that aspect of it. I can't say that I'm fully confident. How do you not have a letdown after the last couple of days? I think that's kind of natural. But this run we're talking about, they've been beating up on bad teams. That's how it all started. And they've been beating those teams by 50. So not that the Hornets are a bad team. They're certainly not. But the fact that they've been doing this for so long against all caliber competition, and they have the recent example of Detroit to say, hey, this is what happens if we take foot off the gas just a little bit, that I guess that's the best you can hope for, that they have learned from that.
All right. Well, let's end on this. Let's bring it full circle back to Tatum. One thing we were trying to do in the office yesterday, Scal said, let's rank the players in the East. Like where's Tatum now as we were watching this game? And this was like halftime when he was only at 20 points. And we sort of said, okay, you probably put Giannis and then Giannis or Durant is one,
Yep.
1A, 1B, whatever you want to do. Joel Embiid is right there. Is Tatum 4? Is Tatum crawling towards higher? Would you like DeRozan has been great this year, and in like a one season vacuum, you'd probably say DeRozan is more an MVP candidate than now. But just in terms of superstars, and then like I started to think about out west, and West has more teams like Utah and Phoenix are teams and more than they are necessarily one superstar. So you definitely throw Jokic in the mix. LeBron still lingers in that conversation after nights like having 56. But
yeah,
I mean, is it fair to say, like we spend so much time saying, is he a top 10 player? Is he a top 10 player? Is he like kind of crawling towards top? I mean, again, you have to make these lists, but top 7, top 6 in the league?
Yeah, I mean, you could even make a case he's been better than Doncic this year. And, and Doncic is a triple-double machine, but it's like Tatum can do it on both ends, which Luka can't. So he's a more complete player. The Celtics are a better team, I feel like, than the Mavs, although that one will come down to the buzzer, and we know how that will end because that's what Luka seems to do to the Celtics. But I'm with you. Like, Giannis clearly is I think he's the best player in the East. He's the most unstoppable force. Embiid is right there. I'm still a little leery of teams winning with centers. I guess Jokic, although Jokic is not a traditional center.
Right.
But man, like you lay it out. I put him ahead of Trae Young. I put him ahead of LaMelo. Like I'm trying to think of the other like big guns in the East. DeRozan, you're right, is having a great individual season, kind of out of nowhere, but no one would take him over Tatum right now. So you can make a case that, like you started off this episode with, and I agree, you can make a case that he is first team All NBA. And I don't think we saw that coming this year.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, I mean, and again, there's going to be like a lot of guys in that MVP conversation that have probably had better overall seasons, but whether it's right now and the way he's playing and there's two-way impact, or just like the long-term vision of what the player at his position means to a team, it's rather wild. Like I've always been a little bit hesitant to be like, I need to see more consistency, different sort of late game aggression. Well, everything I keep asking of Jayson Tatum, it's like checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And so here we are on March 7th, almost exactly 2 months after I was at the lowest point of maybe my Celtics viewership, pondering whether this team needed far more. And I never thought about splitting up the Jays, but I did think like, man, this might just not be working in terms of this core, and I didn't know it. I didn't have an answer. Evidently the answer was just kind of wait and be patient. So I'll try to remind myself to be patient from here on out, even though I will still have multiple meltdowns on NBC Sports Boston along the way.
As you should.
I guess
that's what you're paid to do.
Are you enjoying your time as quasi Celtics insider with me now that?
Oh my God,
baseball...
it's the best. Celtics riding sidecar on the Celtics beat is the absolute best. All the pressure's on you, and I just get to write fun stuff of whatever catches my fancy. So well, I will do this job forever. Never come back, baseball. I don't care.
Same. I do love it. We're gonna have to get you a different background. Maybe we can just stitch some Wilson leather over those.
Yeah, I do have the baseball background, but it's the only thing I could find on eBay.
We'll get you some green markers. Do you want to tell that story? Because I thought that was incredible. I don't know if that's too deep for people to know, but you finding that banner on eBay is
from someone who, without question, stole it off one of our remote sets. I have no doubt about that. But I paid him $40. Some guy in California, and now it is in my attic, and it is a classier backdrop than what I had before. So, in honor of NBC, if there were a basketball one, I definitely would have bought that too. I should go check his other listings.
For my 40th birthday a couple years ago, my friends bought me I don't know if you've ever seen. So there was this wrestling guy named Virgil who was the sort of muscle for the $1 Million Man, but he was also very relentless in terms of appearing at wrestling shows in the aftermath, and he would set up his own booth. Even if I don't even think they invited him, he just would set up his own booth, and he would have wrestling superstar Virgil written on a thing, but it was always with misspellings. And so my friends thought it would be funny. They actually reached out and said, we'd like to buy one of these. And someone who responded with an email address that was like, definitely not Virgil.at@gmail.com, but it was Virgil, sold them it. So I maybe it's like an old producer or something who's stashed away in California who was actually selling these things. Either way, it's amazing that people. I love the racket. I love that you search. What did you search? NBC Sports Boston on eBay.
I just was looking for a generic NBC backdrop. I thought I might get a 1950s like peacocks or something.
Yes.
And I couldn't find anything. And then that popped up. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. I should say that I am from the fraud division of NBC and I need to reclaim it. I could have gotten it for free.
I am now fascinated by this. If I could go, I don't know how the company will feel about this, but if I can find some old like sports channel stuff, Prism, if I can get, I have said, and I definitely did a search for this at some point, trying to find the green, like key lime green blazer that Gorman wore, doing some studio stuff in his first couple of years with NBC or Sports Channel Prism, whatever it was called. If I could find that, I would pay copious amounts of money on eBay. So if the person in California has other NBC heritage vintage items, please reach out to me, and I will find a way as I bask in the glow of good Celtics basketball. All right, John Tomase, buckle up because this could last a while, and baseball is probably not coming back. So I hope you're ready for plenty of Celtics hoops moving forward.
I am ready to be your servant.
Here we go. Everybody, while you're waiting for the next episode with Tomase, go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. If you find anything on eBay that we would like to buy, please hit me with a link. You can leave the link in the YouTube page as well. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk podcast.